Great to hear. Great to hear. Who do you think is the best current driver in NASCAR?
Ooh, that's got to be a tough question right there. But I think if you pay attention to just overall motorsports world, right, and you look at that as a whole, and you say who can get in just about anything and win, and then you go look at the NASCAR side, and okay, well, out of all these drivers, who can get in virtually anything and win? And I've got some good opinions on that. I think Kyle Larson obviously is a huge talent in our industry, and I love watching him win races. I've watched him win at Nashville on a fuel mileage thing. He was shutting the car off. We were sitting right there in front of the start-finish line, and he was shutting the car off halfway down the straightaway. And so you would kind of hear him flying down the racetrack, and then right in front of us, it'd just go whoo, and just barely make a sound because he shut the engine off. And then you could watch him turn it back on in the middle of 1 and 2 and take off down the back straightaway. So watching him win, basically on fuel mileage and just running the car when it wasn't even, running, I thought that was super impressive. So he's a top talent in my opinion. Connor Zilich, I think, is a huge talent as well. I think he could turn around and go to, IMSA or Formula One or something like that, instantly probably be competitive. And I really hated to see what happened to him this past weekend. That was huge, and really, really glad that he's not hurt any worse than he is. I guess a broken collarbone is probably a lucky break in the situation. Luckily they didn't have any head trauma or anything too.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard about that, and I felt for him. He was in my prayers for sure.
Yeah, I think if I win in this bad boy, I'm going to make sure my window net is down inside the car when I climb out, so I don't slip on it. I don't know what exactly happened, but when I watched Connor's video, it looked like where he was standing on the window net, the net kind of shifted a little bit, and when it shifted, it just threw his whole weight off, and then he took his whole tumble there. So that was a learning experience for me. When we win a race, I don't want to be standing on my window net. I'm going to try to just stand on the door itself. But I think he's a huge talent, and then I think if you look at Wyatt Miller, Dale Earnhardt's grandson, Kelly Earnhardt Miller, her son. I think he's a huge talent. You go watch him run. I don't know what they call those. I guess trophy trucks. He runs trophy trucks and wins in those races. And then he goes out on the dirt world at Millbridge and is winning all the time. And then he won a limited late model race, which is what I'm driving on the weekends. And he goes out and wins one of those in his second ever start. So I think he's going to be a big talent. The older he gets and the more racecraft he develops, I think he's going to be hard to deal with for some other guys.
Definitely so. If I had to pick my drivers that I think are the best at the moment in NASCAR and stock cars, Kyle Larson is definitely, I would agree with, one I would agree with you, because he almost pulled off the Memorial Day double this year and would have done it. I believe he would have won both races if things had gone his way, and would have had it last year if not for the rain delay. And speaking of which, I met Kyle at Phoenix in 2018, and one of the most gentlemanly drivers you've ever meet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't got the pleasure of really getting to talk with him much. He came and ran a dirt late model race at a track called 411 Motor Speedway, which is really close to my house, and where we live. And my mother worked at the racetrack. She ran the pit entrance right there at the speedway. And so when he came through to run that weekend, he had to sign in with my mom. So she got him to sign some merch, so my kids have a little autographed Kyle Larson Dirt late model T-shirt. And I think he signed a sweatshirt or something for me. I still got it upstairs, which is really cool. And so my son and I went over to kind of watch him actually do the race. We didn't get to talk with him or anything, but that was probably one of my first times I got to watch him run something outside of NASCAR, if not the only time. And I don't know, do you remember one of his first Xfinity Series starts when he ran, I think it was a white 32 car. Do you remember that?
Yes, with Turner Scott before they shut down, and he came close to the Homestead win, but Brad Keselowski overtook him.
Well, do you remember, I believe I was there, and I believe he almost won at Bristol one year, and if I remember correctly, he was trying to pass Kyle Busch on the high side, and Kyle Busch and him were coming to the checkered flag, and Kyle Busch ultimately just kind of pinched him into the wall to keep him from passing.
Yes.
remember that correctly?
Yes, and then there was one time at Chicago when Larson took the lead from Kyle Busch, and Busch put a bump and run on him, but
Yep.
Kyle was able to save it and finish second, which shows that that was a clean move compared to other ones, because Kyle in the end was able to save it and still finish.
Well, when I watched him, almost beat Kyle Busch at Bristol, in what I would say, I guess is subpar equipment. You've got a Joe Gibbs racing car right there. It could have been Kyle Busch's team. I don't recall which car Kyle Busch was driving, but that's top level equipment. And then you've got Kyle Larson, who's kind of a rookie at the time, and running a much lesser funded program car. To see him go out there and compete like that and almost win, and win on the high side too at Bristol, I thought that was super neat to watch. So I think that was kind of when I first became a Kyle Larson fan, seeing that one in person. That was really exciting for me.
For me, I became a Kyle Larson fan when he came close to some wins in Xfinity in 2013. But the start of it was when he beat Joey Logano in the autism awareness car, because I'm on the autism spectrum. And so I'm an activist with autism awareness, and seeing him win in the Autism Speaks car and all that, just autism awareness in general, it made me happy. And the fact that I have complicated feelings on Joey Logano.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that have those emotions with Joey Logano, so
yeah.
I don't fault you for that.
Yeah, you just one thing you got to remember when you're racing, just don't go into a corner with a cut tire and blow it right when you're passing someone that you have a feud with.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll have to come up with a more strategic response than that if I ever run into that situation.
Yeah. That incident happened, and while in the end I have to agree with the penalty since I don't condone intentional wrecking, part of me was sort of mixed feelings about that at the same time, because it's like I wasn't sure how to respond, because it's...
Yeah.
But as a guy with morals, I had to agree with the penalty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you got to hold drivers accountable, right? You can't let them just do whatever they want to out there, especially from a safety aspect. You don't want to see anybody get hurt. So, yeah. I tend to agree with the NASCAR side on that one too. But it was exciting to watch, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the crowd would attest to that, And
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I wish I was there. I think a friend of mine was at that race, and he invited me to go, but I didn't really want to make the drive, so I just stayed home and watched it on TV. And then, obviously he had virtually a front row seat for it, so I was like, man, I should have went to that race. That'd have been a fun one to say you were there to experience. But I unfortunately missed that one. I stayed at the house.
Yeah. The biggest race I ever went to was the inaugural Music City Grand Prix. Did you hear about that one?
I did hear about that one. I didn't get to go, so you went to that?
I did, and that's where I got into connections with a lot of the IndyCar and the Trans Am series and GT America, and even Robbie Gordon's Stadium Super Trucks. Seeing
That's
all
awesome.
those. Seeing all those races and those jumps by the super trucks, and then interestingly enough, entering the track on the first day, and within 10 minutes I get run into by Roger Penske's golf cart by mistake,
Oh, man.
That was the weekend of a dream, and I'm actually writing a book about it, by the way.
Oh, awesome. Well, whenever that book hits the market, I'll have to snag a copy so I can read up on it.
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be told in simple...
It's
not...
in the neighborhood. They're honking at each other.
Yeah, it's not going to be told in the language of car horn. Don't worry, it's going to...
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't get to go to that one. That Kyle Larson win I was saying about on fuel mileage, that was at Nashville a couple of years ago. So that was, I guess, if I remember correctly, I know that was the old gen car. And then I think that was the first race back at the Nashville Super Speedway. We got to go to that one. So what did you think about the Nashville area whenever you went to the Music City race?
I thought it was great. It was the first time I'd ever been to Nashville, although I had been invited there before. I liked the skyline. I have a skyline image somewhere where I was in the stadiums with the whole city in the background. And one of the
Yeah.
buildings looked like Batman.
Oh yeah. I guess it used to be the AT&T building. I don't know if it still is or not, but
Yeah.
we always call it the Batman building. I've lived in Tennessee my whole life. That's the only. I know exactly which building you're talking about, and that's the only way I could refer to it as the Batman building. I don't know how others see it, but that's how I see it too.
Yeah, for sure. I also encountered other people on the weekend. I met Al Unser Jr. and
Oh wow.
I met Angela Savage, who's the daughter of the last driver that died at Indianapolis in the 500 in a crash anyway. Wow. And although I didn't interact with him, I saw Ari Lyondike Jr. pass by me on his scooter, but he was going too fast for me to have a chance to react to it.
That's cool. That's super cool. Yeah, I've not got to catch one of those races. I would like to go and watch and just kind of observe. I know those cars carry a ton of speed, pretty much all the time. So I would love to get to experience one of those races. I bet it's pretty neat.